Hello, guys. Welcome to this week's lap guide for the Sampsoid LMP3 Championship. This week we are going to Barber Motorsports Park, a very underused track in iRacing, which is a shame because it's a very fun track. It's not the easiest to overtake, but like the overall lapping is very enjoyable. It's difficult. There are a lot of blind corners, a lot of downhill corners, and this was my first time driving a car here without ABS, and that is definitely going to be one of the struggle points for this week. There's one corner in specifically where like I just cannot avoid micro locking. I don't know if it's a first lap thing only because I only did first laps, of course. But it is very difficult. So I'm expecting to see a record number of lockups for the Sunday race, and yeah, my word of advice is just try to minimize it as much as you can because you will hurt your front tires a lot. There's also a lot of battling the TC, of course, because this track is bumpy, a lot of elevation changes. So it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Um, I did, like, I'm not gonna lie about it. You can see it in my raw lap video just in a second. I did this lap on lap 98. Of course, they're not full laps, because I'm using active reset, but I still spent, I think, a good hour and a half actually trying to lap this. Um, I haven't raced this track a lot, so for me it was semi new as well, especially in this car. It was the first time, of course. So yeah, for me it was a definite struggle, but the lap I managed to push out in the end finally gave me a good lap. Like it's very on the edge. Like so, this is a lap one, but for me this was a very much a qualifying simulation. So I hope I can help you gain some lap time for quali in this because of course we raced the day before at Watkins Glen, and of course I drive LMP3 a lot, and for some reason I tend to find a lot of lap time in the actual first lap that a lot of people struggle with. So I'll just try to help you find a little bit more. So we're going to do the usual shtick. I'm going to show you the raw lap first, and then we'll do another cockpit lap in iRacing, and I'll talk you through it, and then I'll do the chase cam lap at the end. So I'll show you the raw lap now. My best lap was a 1 minute 17.662, and for a first lap, I think that is very decent. So I'll show you the lap now.
Sector 2 time is okay. 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 Sector 2 time is
All right, and that was the lap. As you can see, it's pretty sketchy. A lot of slip and sliding, trying to keep the car in check. But it is kind of what you have to do. So I will be switching over to iRacing now, and I'll talk you through the lap. Let me get rid of this sim up thing. That. All right. So the run into T1. It's a pretty fun T1, to be honest, because you want to generate a lot of speed through the corner, but there's also a very tight corner coming up next. So right after you go through T1, you kind of need to be slowing down already for T2. All right, so T1 first. As you see here, I'm looking for the 2-board, and I basically brake a bit after. So when I don't see the 2-board anymore on my screen, I start to brake. Very light braking, which is a trend at this track. There's only one very heavy braking zone, which we'll come up to in a couple corners. But this one, as you see, like I'm not even reaching 50%. It's like 40-45%. It's going downhill, so you just want a lot of weight on your front wheels because the fronts need to do the turning in this example because it's a very high speed corner. So you brake and you instantly go into trail braking. A lot of trail braking needed at this whole track as well, but here just a lot of trail braking, and you are aiming for that inside curb. You don't really want to hit it, but you do want to get as close as possible. As you see here, this is perfect. Just rubbing your left wheels against the low part, basically. That's what you want to do. And then, as you see here, mid-apex, you want to go back into throttle. And you need to find the limit of your exit because you're going to be very close to the grass on exit, and that's what you need. So throttle, as you see here, I'm holding off to 100% throttle again because I know if I throttle 100%, the car will just understeer into the grass, and that's not what we want. So we go here, 100%, and as you see here, it's for a very short duration, because then T2 is coming up. It's an uphill corner. I think it's almost a 180-degree corner. It might be a full 180 degree. It's very close at least. This is the first corner where you will experience either front locking or rear instability. It's basically a pick your poison. So again, not braking above 50% because you just need you don't need a lot. Like the more you brake, the more you lock, the more instability you get. So it's just not worth it. So you kind of want to roll the car into this corner. 50% brake, and when you start the braking zone here, you are in 4th gear. You want to downshift to 3rd pretty early, but you want to hold off shifting to 2nd for a while, and I'll explain to you why. So this is bottom 3rd gear, and you wait, and then here, as you can see by the throttle blip, that is basically the downshift. I wait this long because the car is very unstable here. So what you want to do is you go to 3rd, you want your straight braking zone, and once you feel that the car is understeering out and you don't get enough rotation, that is the moment you want to go to 2nd, because 2nd kicks the car around just a little bit on the rear, which gives you the rotation you need for this corner. Mid-apex, so you wanna, like, this is kind of a hit. It's kind of a double apex. You wanna hit it here on entry, and then you wanna trail out wide. There's I think there's about a car's length, car's width of space here, but we'll check that in the chase cam. And then you want to roll out until you feel the car coming back to you, and the moment you can rotate. And you need to figure out where this is, because you need this needs to be one fluent throttle motion. You cannot be on throttle and then like, oh, I'm gonna understeer off here, so I'm going off throttle and on throttle again. So you need to find where this point is, so that you can basically throttle at once. Of course, I have my usual throttle plateau here of like 70%, just to get around the corner but not understeer too much. And then it's basically when you find the actual curb on the inside, just a little bit before, you can go full throttle. The car is very sketchy here. It's not dangerous, but because the DC helps you just to keep the car in check, basically. But the car is very floaty. Like you can feel the rear wiggling around here a little bit. You don't have to be afraid of it too much, because the TC will never allow you to actually spin out. But it's a weird feeling. But the car gets very light here, and you naturally understeer out here, because you think you can make it pretty easily, but look where I end up. Like I end up like almost on the grass. So it's a lot narrower than you think. All right, so the exit, you go uphill. It's blind. Just kind of follow this curb, because this is a bit of a corner, so don't go straight here because you will be on the wrong side of the track. I hit the curve here a little bit. You don't have to, but you can. It doesn't really make a difference. It's just how I took the line, I guess. Doesn't really matter. And here we are approaching the heaviest braking zone on the track. It's a very tight corner once again, and it's very downhill, so you can brake pretty hard. I'm looking for the 3 board as my marker, but the actual brake point is more like in the middle of the 3 and the 2. But I'd recommend you start out braking at the 3 and see how far you can push this, because again, the car is very unstable under braking here. It breaks traction quite easy, and yeah, it's a difficult corner. So as you see here, I brake like in between the 3 and the 2. Actual like 80% brakes at peak, which is definitely the most of this track. You want to heavy brake into a straight line, of course. And as you see here, the turn-in point is basically like half a car's length further than the outside curve here. That's where you want to start turning in, and that's also, of course, the moment you want to bleed off the brakes to get some turn in. So as you see here, I'm taking a very narrow line, which is unusual for a corner like this, because of course this is a double apex corner. Normally you want to hit this apex, go out wide, and hit the second apex. But because the exit of this corner is pretty wide, I prefer to do this, because you can basically straight line out to here, because this, you have no traction whatsoever here. So you want to create a line that is as straight as possible. As you see here, my steering wheel is almost straight out on full throttle, like basically just aiming to the trees here. Because if you're steering and you want to go over here, your TC will just go mad and you lose a lot of pace. So I figured out after 90 laps or whatever that for me at least, this is absolutely the easiest and the best thing to do. So it's still a lot of trail braking, and you just want to hug, this whole curb until basically the second apex comes up, and that is where just after, as you see. Oh wait, it's the. Wait, let me. Yeah, the second apex. Just after that, you want to just instantly straighten out your wheel and go as straight as possible while going on the throttle. I still lose a bit of traction here, but this is very minimal to what you will do if you start steering in to get to the inside. And then, of course, you go back over to the left side just to prepare for the next corner, which this is the corner where we will see all the front locking. This, for me, it was impossible to carry a certain amount of speed through this without locking at the end of the corner, because it's a chicane, it goes downhill, and the exit is very narrow. So it's this is a very difficult corner to get right. But I found out what to do, kinda. Like, it's the best I could come up with, at least. So you're aiming for the 2 board as your braking marker. Do not try and brake late. It's not worth it, guys. You either die or you just full lock your fronts. It's not worth it. So 2 board, of course, I brake a little bit later, but this is my reference. And you wanna ease in the car a lot. So it's 50% brakes for a very short amount of time, because you kind of want to roll your car through this. You don't want to be braking too much. So you just need to find the speed that is decent enough and that you can actually slow it down and exit. So 50% brake, and that turns into trail braking, less braking pretty soon, as you see here. I full on attack this first curb just to make some sort of straight line through this. And it's on the curb, you brake less, and then when you get off the curb, you start braking more again. Because there's such a big dip here. And again, the second curve as well. Like, you just want to find the straightest line through this. That's my best experience anyway. Of course, it gets very bumpy because of the curves, but you just cannot go around the curves. It's not viable. So again, here 40% brakes, and then after you land off this second curve, you really wanna go down on your brake pressure, because this is the point, as you see here, lockups everywhere. Like, I've tried this like a gazillion times and it's super difficult. So you want to go down on your brake pressure, and the thing you want to do is you want to find the balance. You want to attack this inside curve as much. Like, you want to get here. That's the first thing, and it's a very difficult thing to do. So you want to find this, but when you find this, you don't want to follow this. Well, you do want to, but you can't, because if you try to follow this line, like, you want to keep it tight, then the fronts will just lock more and the lap is just done. It's over. So what I found is the best, because the exit is actually a lot wider than you expect. So you want to attack this inside, like, initially to find it, and then you want to bleed off the brakes as soon as you can, and just let the car run out wide a little bit. Like, you don't have to keep super close to this, because if you try to do that, you just lock up. So what you do, as you see here, you try to follow it as long as you can, and then it's basically just release the brake and you're at instantly full throttle, because the exit is super wide, a lot wider than you think. And you want to straighten out your wheel, of course, because it's also very traction limited. And just let your car run to the outside. It's fine. Like, that is the line you should take. As you see here, I come out all the way here, and that's just where you're gonna come out. It's just how it is. This chicane is pretty easy flat out in this car, so that's nice. You just want to barely miss the first curb and barely miss the second curb, and just keep your steering input to a minimal just to avoid fighting your tires. It saves a bit of tire wear and it's just a little bit faster because you don't scrub your tires as much. So barely miss, and just come out wide here, it's fine. And as you see, my steering inputs, just have a look at this, it's just very minimal. Barely any steering, and just let the car run out wide. So that is all good. And now we are coming on to the section of the track that I absolutely love. This last section is such a roller coaster. It's super high speed, and yeah, it's just so much fun when you finally nail it. So, at the start of this section, you are looking for the one board, which in the beginning, it seems like it's way too late, but you can take so much speed through this section. So you aim for the one. That's basically your turn in and braking point. Braking point is a bit later, so you turn in first, which is kind of odd, but it's super high speed, of course. So instantly at the one, you start turning in. Braking a bit later, super soft on the brake. It's basically just to get some weight on the front because it goes downhill. So just a little bit of trail braking basically through the corner. You fully attack this curb just to make the straightest line as possible. And then again, as soon as you are planted after the curb, so when you stop bouncing, you start applying more brake pressure. Again, still very minimal, like 30-35%. And then you kind of want to run a little bit wide initially, and then just attack this curb on corner exit. So it's basically halfway through the curb, you just fully yeet over the curb and go for it. Because the exit of this corner narrows up a lot. Like you can take a lot of speed through this. As you see, I am full throttle. Basically when I come off the curb, and you don't see the corner exit at the beginning, which is terrifying in the beginning. But you'll get a feel for it. It's fine. So you just throttle, and then as you see, I come out all the way to the grass. Like I think I even nipped the grass a little bit here, which is fine. So you just need to kind of feel that out for yourself. And then we come to a very difficult section, but still very fun if you nail it. So you want to kind of keep full throttle here. I lift off a little bit here because I noticed I went a little bit too far, and you really want to attack this inside curve. So I just lifted a little bit. Lifted a lot, actually. Okay, that's interesting. So you just want to make sure you get to the inside of this curve. You don't have to go over it, just go next to it. And then you want to carry a lot of speed through this, like I'm almost going 200 kph through this corner. And then you want to make your car drift out all the way because the second to last corner is very tight. So you need all the entry road you can get. As you see here, it's a lot of playing with the throttle, playing with the brake a little bit. This is kind of dumb, like I'm braking and throttling at the same point, which is never ideal. But hey, if you can do it without braking, that is very much preferred. I don't know why I'm braking here. Must be, I might have just leaned my foot on the pedal a little bit. So, playing with the throttle, and then halfway through the corner, you lift off the throttle and you start trail braking a little bit. Which is, there aren't many markers here, so this is a very technical section that you will need to feel out. Like, I did 98 laps, and yeah, it took me quite a while to figure this section out. So release the throttle, brake a little bit, and then the best marker I can give you is the beginning of this outside curb, is where you want to start turning in for this corner. So you see I'm aiming fully at this outside curb, and as soon as I get there, I start to turn my wheel in to prepare for this corner. Might even get away with going a bit later because this is still a very shallow corner like this, but this is the best I could squeeze out of it. As you see here, the car gets very understeery, like, naturally, so start turning in at this curb, and then you want to keep this very tight, like I'm riding my right wheels over the curb, because you want to follow this outside line for the last corner, because the last corner is very narrow as well. So you just want to you want to kind of want to give this corner up to get the next corner completely correct. So you want to keep it as tight as you can here. And again, you have the outside curb here as a reference. And that's basically where I start to turn in. So I start turning in exactly at the corner. As you see here, again, I'm braking a little bit and throttling, which is not ideal. But you just want to get your nose in, and you want to attack this inside curb. You want to go fully over the low part of the curb here. As you see here, there's like a kind of a divide on the curb, and you want to keep it to the low side, because if you go over the high side, the car will just bounce too much and you'll just understeer off the track. You want to keep it to the low side. Find your throttle point. As you see here, rookie mistake. I throttled too early. So full throttle, and then I just realized I'm not gonna make it. So I have to back off the throttle and reapply again. You see here, it took a very long time. So this is a major time loser, to be honest. Like, this is where you lose a lot of time if you do that. Like, if I had been a bit more patient and full throttled around here, that would have probably given me like a 10th, because this is just unnecessary. But it is what it is. You see here, like, I'm lifting off the throttle fully until I'm on the full corner exit, which is just ridiculous, but it had to be done because I almost died. As you can see here, like, this is as far as you want to go. And that is the lap. I'll show you in chase cam. A bit further. That. So I won't talk over this, just analyze how much space of the track I'm using, because that is the key of this track. Use every inch of the track you can find. Okay, I'll show you now. All right, and that was it for the lap guide of this week. Um, I think for a lot of people, it's gonna turn out to be practicing a lot of consistency because I don't think pure pace is gonna matter too much at this track. It's gonna be very much a survival race, in my opinion, because I think a lot of people will be battling the car instead of battling people around them. So just practice and make sure you can do kind of the same laps over and over again and keep it on track. Have a fun race Sunday, guys. I hope I can be there because I do love this track, but I'm not too sure yet because I start work again on Monday and I need to wake up early. So we'll see. I hope I can see you there. Have a good race, have fun, race clean, and peace.